Hey guys, lepedaler back with another video. Today we're going to be taking a look at the 105 group set and comparing it with the Ultegra group set and the Dura-ace group set and see if it's actually worth upgrading your group set if you were debating between 105, Ultegra, and Dura-ace. So let's get right into that. So whenever I'm making these comparison videos, I always like to make a list of key characteristics between each entity that I'm comparing, and that just makes it very easy to follow along and see the key characteristics and how they change between each entity. So right now we're going to talk about the key characteristics of the 105 group set. So I'm going to be using the 105 group set as the base standard when comparing it to Ultegra and Dura-ace. So just so you guys know that, keep that in mind. So the 105 group set is 200 grams heavier than Ultegra. The price of 105 is roughly $900 to $1,000. Where I think the 105 group set really shines is that not only is it cheap to replace parts, but it's very robust. And if you are on a budget or just happen to, be in a predicament where you have to replace parts for whatever reason, you won't be breaking the bank. So that's one key characteristic that I love with the 105 group set, is that you don't have to worry about making sure nothing happens to your parts whatsoever. Now the 105 group set on hydro disc brakes, the hoods can be quite chunky. So for me, I personally find them uncomfortable. But, if I did ride them a lot and got used to it, I'd probably be comfortable with it. But that's just a personal taste that I have with those shifters in particular. It should be noted for the 105 group set in terms of shifting, it's a little bit less crisp or smooth when compared to Ultegra and Dura-ace. But I made a video on my channel going through every Shimano group set, and I would still give the Shimano 105 group set an 8 out of 10 in terms of shiftness and how smooth it shifts. So I would say even up to the serious cyclist, it's more than enough, but when you do compare it to Ultegra and Dura-ace, you can still see the difference. So one thing I really learned from being in the cycling industry is that Shimano has a trickle-down effect in regards to their technology. So, Dura-ace from a couple years ago, those improvements get trickled down, that technology trickles down into the current 105, meaning that some of the 105 or even Ultegra of today is better than the Dura-ace of the past, which, is somewhat you would expect, but it's really nice that if pro riders and other cyclists, super serious cyclists, could enjoy those group sets, those Dura-ace group sets, and perform at very high levels for the everyday cyclist or even for the moderate serious cyclist. If that technology goes into 105 and Ultegra even, which we're going to get into next, but the 105 in specific, which is affordable, not a big deal to replace if you so need to. So it's nice that that technology gets applied to the 105 group set and you can enjoy the benefits that were on previous Dura-ace iterations. So that's one thing I love, how Shimano really takes that technology and brings it to the masses with the 105 group set. So now we're going to talk about the key characteristics of the Ultegra group set. So let's jump right into that. So it's 200 grams lighter than the 105 group set, and usually this group set's considered for a cyclist that's already had their first initial road bike and they're looking to upgrade their bike. It's a little bit less durable when compared to the 105 group set, however, it is more robust when compared to the Dura-ace group set. To replace parts on the Ultegra group set, I would say it's moderately expensive, so it's not going to break the bank, but it's still going to leave a pretty good chip. So that's one thing to also consider, is that replacing parts can be moderately expensive. So the hydro braking in Ultegra group sets is very similar to Dura-ace, and you won't really see significant differences. However, when you compare the hydro braking in Ultegra to 105, you can see improvement in the Ultegra group set. However, from Ultegra to Dura-ace, like I said, there's not a big difference. The shifting in the Ultegra group set gets a little bit crispier, a little bit smoother, and I would give it an 8.5 out of 10. However, even with the amount of riding that I do typically, I wouldn't say that's a significant gain when compared to the 105 group set, but it does get a little bit nicer. Now the average price that the Ultegra group set goes for is around $1,500, which is, moderately expensive. Lastly, the key characteristics of the Dura-ace group set are as follows. The Dura-ace group set is roughly 500 grams lighter than the 105 group set, which can be quite significant if you are a weight weenie or someone that cares about reducing the amount of weight on their bike. If you're considering the Dura-ace group set in terms of weight savings, I would like you to ask yourself, have you been able to make yourself the fittest cyclist you're capable of? And that's because from my personal experience, when I've actually, in the progress of trying to become the fittest cyclist I can, I found that, just from, shaving off some excess weight, you can save thousands of dollars, and your cycling performance will be better than anything, in my opinion, that you can, really buy, because grams are very expensive to shave off your bike, where you can shave pounds off your own body, and that's usually free, and it just requires persistent training and just motivation. So I like to stress that point enough, because I feel like a lot of times people get in the weight weenie mentality, and that's totally fine if you're willing to dish out the cash and pay for those upgrades. But not enough people like to talk about the best upgrade that you can do, and that's becoming the fittest cyclist you can, or at least try. Now, one thing I do have to agree with Dura-ace is that when you do shift, all you hear is click, click, click. Like, it is so smooth. It is like butter. Now, that's a nice positive thing that you get with Dura-ace, but then again, Dura-ace does come with that expensive price. Dura-ace group sets usually retail for $3,000, which is quite expensive, which means replacing parts do come with a hefty fee. So that's something to always consider, because Dura-ace group set is not the most robust group set. So replacing parts would be quite expensive, and that's something that should be noted if you do decide to go with an expensive group set, is that parts and maintenance and all that stuff is going to be quite expensive. I like to remind everyone that your group sets can, exceed their life expectancy, especially if you take proper care of your group sets and actually do the maintenance on it routinely. And that's just something I like to see, because I don't like things going to waste or people having to upgrade just because they were lazy or just didn't want to put in the time to, get it taken to the shop and actually, maintained and upkept. So I really like to stress that, you can do it at home, you can do it at the shop, you can do it literally anywhere, but keeping your group set in proper, well-maintained form is going to save you a lot of money down the road and just reduce overall unnecessary waste. So that about wraps it up between the 3 comparisons between each group set. Now I'm going to give you guys my overall opinions and thoughts on each group set and kind of what I suggest for, every type of cyclist, what they should really get. So I'm going to cut straight to the point and say that the 105 group set is the best group set out of all these 3 group sets, and that's just because of not only the price point, but the replaced parts and the robustness. And just, it's such a good group set for what it needs to do. And I'm going to get into why you shouldn't even really worry about Ultegra or Dura-ace, but the 105 group set, just very to the point, is probably the only group set you really need. And I can truly vouch for it, as I've been on Ultegra group sets my whole cycling career, and only recently I've been on a 105 group set, and I've already put in roughly 7,000 kilometers on it, and I had no problems. And I can't even say there's a significant difference in terms of shifting or just overall feel of the group set, which speaks a lot of volumes because I do ride a lot. So let's get into why I think Ultegra and Dura-ace should be considered if you so happen to fall under these specific requirements of why you would need these group sets. So if you're looking to buy a brand new bike and you are looking to have carbon rims on your bike, usually those bikes are going to come with Ultegra. So I could understand why someone might go for an Ultegra group set on a bike if they want to get carbon rims also. But that's kind of like the only exception I would really see people riding with Ultegra, is that if they bought the bike brand new and it came with carbon rims, then there are some valid justification. But upgrading your current bike with whatever group set it has, unless it's really old, to Ultegra, in my opinion, doesn't make sense. And that's just because the 105 group set is so good, and it really gets the job done. Some of you guys might know this, but I've worked in the cycling industry in the past, and when I would ask fellow customers or cyclists what was the reason for considering Ultegra over 105, a lot of the times their justifications, in my opinion, didn't really make sense, especially when other equipment that they had wasn't to that standard. So an Ultegra group set with carbon rims, like, that's nice, but like, do you have a really nice helmet? Do you have nice comfortable shoes? Do you have all this other equipment that can improve the overall cycling performance and enjoyment? And on top of that, have you tried to optimize yourself as a rider to the best of your abilities? And usually the case would be no. So that's why I like to stress, it's like, if you go for 105, you'll have a superb experience in terms of shifting, reliability, durability, and I can truly vouch for that, as I've said, because I'm riding 105 and I have no problem. So it's very interesting to see why people would want to go for Ultegra, and I feel like a lot of that comes just from maybe the looks, or feeling that they have to, because 105 is on the lower end, and obviously Dura-ace is very, very expensive. So Ultegra is kind of like that happy medium between both, and I kind of see it sometimes if you are super, super serious, but for the average cyclist, I think 105 is superb. And I like to clear up on the point of Ultegra, is that if you have the money and you want to, everyone is entitled to make their own calculated purchases. I just personally don't find it very warranted, especially when you can make other improvements to other pieces of equipment that would probably increase your overall riding experience. Now, super, super important, Dura-ace or Dura-ace shouldn't be considered for probably 95% of cyclists currently out there. And that's just because the Dura-ace Groupset is designed for super serious cyclists, and that's pro cyclists or semi-pro cyclists or people that, you know, have the budget of a pro team or pro cyclist to afford these group sets, because parts to replace on a Dura-ace Groupset are super expensive. So I would say the Dura-ace Groupset shouldn't come across anyone's mind, and usually the people that ride Dura-ace Groupsets either don't care about replacing parts because they have the necessary funds to do so, or they are pro cyclists. So just remember that Dura-ace, very expensive and usually for pros. So I'd really like to stress that from a 105 group set to an Ultegra group set, the improvement in shifting that you get on an Ultegra group set, I would say is anywhere between 5 to 10%, and that's even being generous. Like, it's not that significantly better. However, if you do ride a lot, you can definitely tell the difference. But, you know, for me, if that's the only real benefit is maybe 5% better and it's 200 grams lighter, like, I don't find that significant, especially if replacing parts do become more expensive and the overall purchase of that group set is overall expensive. I can't really give that valid justification of why an Ultegra group set would be better than a 105 group set. So just really keep that in mind also. I said this previously in the video, but I love to stress this point that maintaining your group set is probably the best thing you can do to improve shifting, durability, reliability. All that stuff is if you maintain your group set. So I've seen people with Dura-ace group sets, with Ultegra group sets, and also with 105 group sets. And the biggest factor that really determines how smooth it shifts, how reliable, the longevity, the lifespan of these group set is how well do they, you know, care about maintaining it. So just because you have a 105 group set, comparing it to a Dura-ace group set, you would, you know, assume that, yeah, the Dura-ace group set is gonna shift better, which, like I said, in, you know, the best case scenarios, it does if it's properly maintained and properly taken care of. But the funniest thing is, from what I've seen, you know, this goes for every cyclist a lot of the times, is that even with a Dura-ace group set, you know, without proper maintenance, which I've seen tons of time, the 105 group set, if it's properly maintained, it just outperforms it. So it's one of those things to stress, is that, you know, unless you're going to maintain your group set, you know, every week, and even then I would say, like, you're not getting the pure benefits, because it's very easy for things to come out of alignment, especially depending on how hard you ride, how long you ride. So if a 105 group set's, you know, really taken care of, it can easily outperform an Ultegra group set and a Dura-ace group set, and vice versa. But it goes back to that whole thing, is like, if you have a Dura-ace group set, like, you have the money, you have, you know, you don't care if something gets broken, all that stuff. So, you know, if you're on the 105 side of, you know, if I maintain it, it's very cheap. If I ever have to replace anything and I just have to maintain it, you know, frequently, and my shifting will be very good, like, 105 to me is the best sweet spot of everything. So now my concluding thoughts are, if you guys are really on the fence between 105 and Ultegra, I would say Ultegra, perhaps if you guys are racing or getting very serious into racing. Even then, I would say I've seen people with 105 group sets completely destroy people with Ultegra group sets in races. So it's not the biggest improvement. Like I said, you could spend that additional money and improve other parts of your equipment setup, such as shoes. Maybe get some more comfortable shoes or a more comfortable helmet. So there's other, or maybe more comfortable clothes. Like, there's lots of improvements that you guys can make that don't necessarily have to be on the bike. And that's just something to be considered. Now, at the end of the day, the biggest thing I'd like to stress too is really test both group sets, 105, Ultegra, or even if you get your hands on Dura-ace and you're seriously considering buying the Dura-ace group set, which, like I said, unless you're a pro rider, I don't suggest it. And if you can test 105 and Ultegra, maybe borrow a friend's bike, or, you know, just spend a lot of time at your local shop riding around, you'll get a good idea. And if you do have enough time, you'll really see there isn't a quite significant difference. And I know I've said this, but I'll say it again. I've ridden both an Ultegra group set and a 105 group set very recently. Last season was on Ultegra, this season on 105, and I only see a 5 to 10% improvement in shifting. So that speaks volumes, and it really has opened my eyes to say that Shimano's, you know, trickle-down technology has made the 105 group set very nice, very enjoyable. It's not something that's limiting my cycling abilities, so I definitely suggest that it shouldn't limit yours as well. That concludes this video. I hope you guys can take the opinions and wisdom and information I've shared in this video and make your own educated conclusions of what group set would probably be best for you if you are considering of buying a new bike or upgrading a new group set, and really maybe take a step back and reconsider everything I've shared and think which group set would probably align best for you. Feel free to comment what you guys think of the video or anything regarding what your current setup is or what group set you're looking at purchasing or any other video ideas. I love engaging with you guys, so feel free to do that in the comments. Please like the video and subscribe to the channel, as that really helps the overall growth of this channel and helps with me putting out more content like this. And until the next one, keep on pedaling.